I do Jungian psychotherapy, integrative counselling. I'm a Reiki master and I do healing as well. And I use all of those in combination according to the needs of the client. So we would agree when we first meet and we contract for how we're going to work together, which of those would be most suitable for you, or all of them, or just the psychotherapy on its own, or whatever is feels most suitable for you at the time. And how it works, that's the $3,945,000 question, I think. Jungian psychotherapy works in the unconscious mind. So a lot of what we're doing is looking at your unconscious drivers and making those parts of you more conscious. Now that might relate to the present time, it might relate to your past as well, and we might well look at your past if that's relevant, and try to understand what it is about your past or what you have in your unconscious that makes you behave in a way in your present life that is not acceptable to you, whatever that is, whatever is troubling you, whatever you present with, that's what we look at. And the long-term aim is that you become a more integrated or more whole human being. So it's about growth. And Jungian therapy looks very much at growth across a lifetime. I don't mean you'd be in therapy for a lifetime, but it is about long-term growth. You might be in therapy for quite a long time, depending on what we're dealing with. So there's a commitment in it. Integrative counselling is normally taken to be perhaps shorter term, and integrative means that I've studied a lot of different theory bases and use those in a mix in the way I work with people. So although I'm both the psychotherapist and the counsellor, I tend to work in the same way with clients now because I have integrated all of those methodologies into the way that I work. Healing and Reiki. I've been a healer for 40 odd years now. And I've been a psychotherapist, counsellor for 10 years now, coming up 11. So healing I've done for many, many years. And it is about working with the physical and the unconscious and the spiritual elements of us in combination. And one of the reasons I've integrated that into my psychotherapeutic practice is because I work a lot with developmental and ancestral trauma. And that needs to be approached from a psychological, physical, a mental, and a spiritual aspect. You can't just work with the psychological alone with recovery from trauma. You need to take the person as a whole and all of it all coming together. So that's very much my approach. I suppose there are. I think a lot of people might think they understand what counselling and psychotherapy is, and they don't really understand it until they try it. So I know I still have some clients sometimes who think that I'm going to advise them as to how to proceed in life, and that doesn't happen. Very occasionally, I might say, we need to look at this from this practical angle, and I don't see any other way out of it than for you to do something along these lines. But that's really rare. That the purpose of the therapy is for you to find your best way through, for you to understand yourself in a different way, and therefore manage things differently. So that's why it's a hard process to describe, because it happens in little tiny increments, and you suddenly find yourself emerging with different attitudes to those that you had when you first came for therapy, and you can't quite put into words anymore what it is that happened to you that made that difference. It's really hard to quantify it, and some of it doesn't have words anyway, because you're dealing with emotion, primarily working on how you feel about stuff. So it goes much deeper than you think. Sometimes takes longer than you think, and it's not about fixing you. It's about you learning how to have a different relationship with yourself. Some have. We have reviews along the way. So it doesn't always come just at the end of therapy. Sometimes it comes during, as we look at where they were and where they are now and where do they want to go in the future. So yes, very often people will say, blimey, this process was not what I was expecting, but it has added so much to my life. I understand now so much more about myself and therefore other people. And it's changed my relationships. It's changed how I feel about my job. It's changed how I conduct myself in my daily activities. I have a little sign up in my porchway which says changing the world one person at a time. And I really believe that can happen because yes, that one person who is with me as a client is learning to be with themselves in a different, hopefully more compassionate way, but they're also going out there into the world with those differences and changing how they relate to others. So it can have an exponential effect. That's my hope, anyway. I think probably the biggest fear, and they don't always word it this way, is that they're going to be found out for being the horrible person they believe they are. And they may say that in lots of different ways, but they think I've got some kind of magnifying glass that looks into their deep psyche, and I can see all this horrible dark stuff swirling about somewhere inside them that I'm going to extract or force out of them or judge them in some way or another. And that's not how it works. And the truth is, we all have dark and light. We're all a horrible mishmash of God knows how many shades of grey. Nobody is black and white, and we all do things wrong all the time. And part of the changes that come with therapy, part of the growthful process, is that you accept who you are and accept the dark with the light. And the moment you do that, you begin to realise that you're good enough. And that's the purpose of living, really, is to realise you're good enough. And the dark bits are dark, and you're going to mess up sometimes, and they're going to emerge sometimes, but that's mostly okay. So everybody's a bit messed up. Messed up is normal. It's how you manage the messed up bits that matters, not that you have them. I think particularly with trauma, because the brain starts to work in quite a different way when we become traumatized or when the trauma emerges. And it can feel like you're going crazy, you're losing control of your mind, and the things it used to do, it won't do anymore, it does them in a different way. So the first part of trauma therapy is explaining the physiology of trauma so that you understand why your hormones are pressing you to behave in a certain way. And then that immediately, you almost immediately then start self-forgiveness work. Oh, I'm not crazy. I'm not crazy. This is a normal reaction to an abnormal situation. And I can realign myself so that I don't react like that anymore. I suppose anybody who wants to grow and wants to understand, who wants to learn, like I say, therapy can be, well, understanding ourselves can be a lifetime's commitment. Doesn't mean you have to be in therapy your whole life, but you might dip in and out of it. So there is a longer term commitment to self-development, to Jungian psychotherapy. On the other hand, you might come and have a couple of dozen sessions and never come back again because it's kind of fixed for you what you need is, and you walk away able to self-counsel in the future. So it is suitable for people who are ready to learn because they do the work, I don't. I point them in the right direction, I walk beside them while they learn, but they have to do the work. And actually most of the work gets done out of the therapeutic session because we put what we've learned into action in our life and see what difference that makes. So, so I help them understand themselves and develop different coping mechanisms. Well, go have a look at my website, I suppose, in the first instance, to see if I sound like the kind of person that you could gel with. The most important thing in therapy is that you feel you can build a good rapport with your therapist, because the most important part of recovery is the relationship I can build with the client and the client can build. So go have a look at my website, see if you like the cut of my jib, I suppose. And if it doesn't appeal, go look at other therapists' websites and see if you see something there that just feels right. It's not even something I can quantify. You know that one. But also, if you're not sure or you want to talk to me directly, I always have what I call an initial chat with people before we decide if we would like to work together. That can be face-to-face or on Zoom. It's 20 to 30 minutes. There's no charge for that, but we have a chat. I find out a little bit more about the client. They can ask me any questions they like, and we can make a decision then before we move forward and make the first appointment.